I help men reclaim truth, identity, and masculine purpose. I do this in a number of ways. I run a mentoring program, and I also work with two pretty significantly sized men's ministries. So I spend a lot of time talking to men. And there's one concept that I hear from almost every man in one form or another. And it really comes down to feeling inadequate. And they feel inadequate because they simply don't feel like they're effective anymore. They're not sinful, they're not lazy, they're not broken, they're just kind of dull. And here's the thing, men don't wake up one day and decide they're going to give up their effectiveness or lose their edge. It happens gradually, quietly over time, often while doing everything right. They're still showing up as a father, they're still providing, they're still producing, but something is gone, something is missing. It's their clarity, their initiative, their fire, that passion that once used to burn on the inside of them. So today I want to talk about how men lose their effectiveness, how men lose their edge. Not morally, but functionally. Because when a man loses effectiveness, everything else downstream of that suffers. And everything is downstream of that. So let's talk about what edge actually means. When I say edge, I'm not talking about aggression, not at all. I'm not talking about dominance, and I'm not even talking about this hustle culture that we live in. Edge is effectiveness. It's your ability to act decisively, to engage fully, and to respond with clarity and move with purpose. Your ability to grow, to develop, to produce, to be effective. Biblically, effectiveness is tied to fruit. John 15:5 says, I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him, he bears much fruit. For apart from me, you can do nothing. Notice the contrast here. It's either bearing much fruit or nothing. Not a little fruit, not some fruit, nothing. Men lose their edge when they lose their fruitfulness, even if activity remains. This is War Ready.
War ready, rise from the ashes. War ready, fight for your legacy. War ready, no more excuses. It's time to win the war within.
So let's first talk about the way that men lose their edge. One way is a lot of men, most men, probably don't start out with numbness. They start out with performance. Performance is kind of odd because it can look from the outside like you're doing everything right, but it's not based on ambition or drive or motivation. It's based on performance. It's based on performing, looking like you have it all together. And that is your identity under attack. Psychologically speaking, this is threat-based self-regulation. Threat-based self-regulation. You do everything that you do out of a sense of fear, out of a potential threat. According to the self-determination theory, when autonomy, competence, or relatedness are threatened, humans shift from a values-based behavior to a survival-based behavior. So to say it plainly, men stop acting from identity and start acting from a place of fear. Fear of failure, fear of irrelevance, fear of being replaced, fear of rejection, a fear of losing control. So they perform. They keep doing the activities from an unhealthy place. They keep doing the right things from the wrong motivation. The challenge is that performance from the outside can look an awful lot like discipline. But it isn't fueled from a desire for growth. It's fueled by anxiety. It looks like productivity, but it's driven by fear. Galatians 4:7 reminds us, therefore you are no longer a slave, but a son, and if a son, then an heir through God. And see, that's what performance really is. Performance is slavery dressed like strength. And here's the trap. Here's the really hard part. performance works. Performance works, at least for a while. Men get rewarded for performance all the time through promotions, respect, even results. But performance consumes effectiveness over time because it divorces the action from your identity. And honestly, this is where I spent a lot of years. From the time I was a kid, I never dreamed of being a firefighter or an athlete or even the president. I mean, sure, you have those thoughts of catching the game-winning touchdown in a Super Bowl, hitting a walk-off home run like Kirk Gibson or Freddie Freeman. I dreamed of ministry. I started preaching at a really young age. I became a youth pastor at 21 after having taught multiple Sunday school classes at that point. I became an associate pastor shortly after that. And by the time I was 30, I had achieved the dream. I was the lead pastor of my own church. Pretty successful church too. And on paper, I was doing everything right. But when we resigned in 2009, a decision that I made in a moment set off years of loss. And I feel it's important to say it wasn't the decision to resign, it was the decisions I made next. For 7 years, life stripped me of everything. Security, clarity, confidence, even my desire to hear from God. I talk about this in great detail in earlier episodes, and I don't want to do that again now. But the reality of it is I didn't stop believing in God. I just stopped wanting to engage in God. I just stopped wanting to be around him. And looking back, this is hard to admit, but I can admit it now. It's because I never approached him as a son. I always approached him as a slave. That's what performance does. When it collapses, it leaves you exhausted. It leaves you empty. It leaves you wanting results without wanting the thing that will give you the results. No. That's what performance does when it collapses. It leaves you exhausted and hollow. I didn't lose faith. I didn't lose my belief. I simply lost my effectiveness. Another way that men lose their edge is through numbness. When performance becomes unstable, men don't usually collapse. They start by numbing out. Numbness is actually a protective response. I'm going to ignore it. I'm going to find a way to medicate it. I'm going to find a way to do something that makes me forget about it. And neuroscience confirms this. Repeated stress without resolution leads to dopamine downregulation. The brain literally reduces sensitivity to pleasure, motivation, and reward. This is why men scroll endlessly or play games on their phones. They binge entertainment, or they're so caught up in their sports team that they can't possibly miss a play. They disengage emotionally. They lose interest in things that they once loved. Not because they don't care, but because caring actually brings pain. Proverbs 4:23 tells us, guard your heart. Guard your heart above all else. Guard your heart. Because that's where the springs of life come from. When the heart is shut down, life stops flowing. Physically and metaphorically. When your emotional heart shuts down, your emotional life stops going on. The problem with emotional shutdown is we can still function physically, but we don't feel it. We don't feel alive at all. And this is where many men will say things like, oh, I'm not depressed. I'm just tired. I'm just tired. Have you ever caught yourself saying like this? Oh, nothing's wrong. Nothing's wrong. I'm fine. I'm just tired. That can be the case once in a while. But if that's your normal state of being, you're not tired, you're numb. And numb men are ineffective. The third way that men lose their edge is complacency. Because if numbness goes unchallenged long enough, it calcifies into complacency. Complacency, it isn't laziness. It's actually settled disengagement. You've resolved yourself to, I'm disengaged. I just don't care. Psychology calls this learned helplessness. It's when repeated effort doesn't produce relief or meaning, we just stop trying, not consciously, but internally. We settle, we coast, we maintain, we're good. Revelation 3:15 through 16 says this, I know your deeds. You are neither hot nor cold. I wish that you were hot or cold, but because you are lukewarm, I'm going to spew you out of my mouth. Being lukewarm isn't rebellion. It's not outright sin. It's just disengagement. And disengaged men, they don't change environments. They don't bring life to anything. They don't change the circumstance. They adapt to the circumstances around them. And that's how edge dies. That's how effectiveness dies. Why is this so dangerous? Because you can be moral, you can be disciplined, you can be faithful, and you can still be ineffective. We miss this. You can be moral, disciplined, and faithful and still be ineffective. 2 Timothy 3:5 says, holding a form of godliness but denying the power thereof. Power is effectiveness. Effectiveness is power. It's your ability to make a change. And when men lose their edge, the families feel it. Workplaces feel it. Churches feel it. Communities feel it. Your friends, they feel it. But the man often can't put his finger on it. He can't name it. He just knows something is wrong. Something is just off. But if you ask that man, he'll continue to say, I'm fine. So let me hold up a mirror for you, or if you have a physical mirror close to you, hold the mirror up to yourself and ask yourself these questions. Am I producing fruit or just activity? Am I productive or just busy? Am I engaged or am I just being responsible? Am I there because I want to be or do I show up because I have to? Am I acting from identity or fear? Do I live from a place of just not wanting to upset or disappoint? Or because it is something that I want to do? Am I alive or am I just functioning? Am I really living or is this just existence? Listen, I promise I'm not trying to condemn you. I'm trying to help you. In the words of John Maxwell, hi, my name is Floyd. I'm your friend. How can I help? Effectiveness. Your edge, it isn't lost in one moment. It's surrendered slowly over time. And here's the warning. Men, we don't lose our edge because life gets hard. We lose it because we stop confronting ourselves. We start drifting, we start coasting, we start just letting things go by. Performance numbs you, numbness settles you, and complacency neutralizes you. But none of that has to be permanent. If you've lost your edge, if you have lost your edge, none of that has to be permanent. You haven't lost your edge. You've just been living disconnected from it. And as G.I. Joe used to say, now you know, and knowing's half the battle. And knowing is where recovery begins. This is War Ready.